The White Sox lost a doubleheader due to being bad, but also being unlucky. I'll discuss how Lady Luck being against this team has also put the club on track to being historically bad next on Locked On White Sox.
You are Locked On White Sox, your daily Chicago White Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, I'm your host, Todd Welter, a lifelong Sox fan and the site expert of Southside Showdown, part of the Fansided Network. You can check out my written content at SouthsideShowdown.com, and also I've covered Major League Baseball for outlets such as the Associated Press. And thanks for making Locked On White Sox your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And make sure to hit the like button on today's episode and subscribe to the YouTube channel at Locked On White Sox if you've not done so already. And follow or subscribe to the show on wherever you get your podcasts, as Locked On White Sox is also available via audio on places such as Apple and Spotify. Well, make no mistake about it, the White Sox are bad. But being unlucky has contributed to being 72 games under 500, and again, 72 games under 500. And that terrible luck was on display in Game 2 last night of a doubleheader that I wanted to discuss in the first segment. Then Luis Robert Jr. is starting to break out of his slump, but does that mean he's back to being a superstar player? And finally, there's another data point in just how bad the Sox bullpen is. I'll wrap up the show talking about that. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. All right. A mentor of mine told me to look for generalities for any team to see what the outlook will be. And those are: a team has to be good, which the Sox are not. The team has to be healthy. Sox definitely not that. And a team must be lucky. And that is definitely not the case for the White Sox. So you put that all together, and yeah, you're going to get a team that's 72 games under 500. And also a team that's just won 4 games since the All-Star break. That's right, 4. Now, the Sox make their own bad luck, like deciding to start a game on Tuesday despite literal dark clouds hanging over the park. And that cost them a Garrett Crochet start and forced a doubleheader yesterday. I mean, we all know the Sox have had figurative dark clouds hanging around them, but when you got literal dark clouds, maybe you might want to wait to start that game. But I'll get to that in a second. Or Lenyn Sosa just not paying attention and getting bonked in the nose by the throwdown from Chucky Robinson. And man, did Sosa have a rough game too, which was another example of the Sox, again, creating their own poor luck. Or putting runners on base to set up bad luck moments to happen, like what happened in the top of the 9th yesterday. But then there's just plain old bad luck happening, like what happened in the bottom of the 9th to Andrew Vaughn. Rangers left fielder Travis Jankowski, he made one of the greatest home run robbing catches you will ever see. I mean, honestly, you will ever see in your entire life. It's either on ESPN.com, it's on Twitter, it's on NBC Sports Chicago, it's everywhere. Go and look it up. It is a thing of beauty. Because Vaughn, he crushed that ball off Andrew Chafin. And it should have been a walk-off home run. Sox should have finally had that beautiful celebration at home plate. They rarely have any walk-off wins this year. I think they only have one, and that was Andrew Benintendi's extra inning home run where John Triffin, was mocking the haters. He should have had that moment. And instead, Jankowski did go-go gadget arm. I mean, he was just like, the arm kept extending and extending and extending, and he pulled it back. Went about 325 feet when probably needed to go 326, 327. And it was bad luck, especially with the wind blowing in. And the Sox had a couple of those hard hits in Game 2 where, a lot of the guys in the lineup, they gave it a ride. I know Luis Robert Jr., he hit one, he crushed one straight to center. And if the wind's blowing out, it probably goes out or lands for a double. Not yesterday, with the wind blowing in. And bad luck was on display in the top of the 9th. Corey Seager, he hits a ball that he thought was going to be a shallow pop-up. Like he hits it, you could see his mouth go, like he thought he did not get enough. And it just falls maybe a few inches short of a sliding Robert Jr. And that's the RBI go-ahead single right there. Bad luck. The ball just keeps finding holes in the defense. Now, Game 2 was also the Lenyn Sosa creating bad luck for the team. He made two terrible fielding plays in the fourth, and that set up a 3-run homer by Wyatt Langford. I mean, maybe it's a solo shot if Lenyn is able to make these two fielding plays. And here's the best recap of how bad Sosa was at helping the Sox find a way to lose. This is from Sox Machine's Jim Margulis. Sosa had the chance to be the hero when he spent the previous 2 hours being a thoroughly lowercase goat. The 3-run homer Sammy Peralta surrendered in the fourth inning that put Texas ahead 3-2 was only worth 3 runs because of two ugly mishaps in Sosa's jurisdiction. First, a Nathaniel Lowe leadoff grounder right of second base was hit at such an angle that Sosa and Lopez arrived at the same spot at the same time, but neither took charge and the ball bounced on for a single. Peralta then induced a potential double play grounder off the bat of Josh Young right at Sosa, but it developed slowly enough that the ball reached Sosa as Lowe reached Sosa. He could have flipped to second to cut down the lead runner, or he could have ignored the distraction and threw to first for 1 out. Instead, Sosa tried to tag Lowe as Lowe changed course, whiffed, and then lost the ball on the transfer when he tried to settle for a 4-3. That's when Wyatt Langford followed with a homer that summed up Sosa's year in the field to date. But Sosa wasn't done being the main character. He briefly redeemed himself by shooting a single through the middle with 2 outs in the fifth that tied the game at 3. But then he came to the plate with 2 on and 2 outs in the seventh, and after hitting a pop-up nearly 90 degrees upward, he loitered around home plate and drifted into the path of Carson Kelly, drawing an interference call that looked even sillier when Kelly couldn't track the wind-altered path. Seriously. And then in the bottom, in between innings, he took the Chucky Robinson standard throw down to second right off the nose. Wasn't even paying attention, just right there. That's a meme right there. Now, the Pythagorean record, try saying that fast 3 times. The Pythagorean record, according to Baseball Reference, is 37-97. So that's what the Sox should be, according to the math. So obviously still bad, but being 6 games behind what they should be, that's not great, actually, because 37-97 at least doesn't have you on track to breaking the 1962 New York Mets record for most losses. And if you don't know that by now, you must have really checked out on White Sox baseball, because they are definitely on track for that. And they're also on track to match the 1916 Philadelphia A's for the worst winning percentage. Now, that's an indication of a team that can't win on the margins, and you need some luck to be able to do that. You got to be able to win on the margins too in baseball, and they cannot completely do that at all. And still, though, this team makes its own bad luck regularly, and that was on display on Tuesday. The team claims storms were just unexpected that night, even though it had been raining in Illinois and in the area all day, and you literally had dark clouds. Go check out Daryl Van Schouwen's Twitter feed, or Scott Merkin or Vinny Duber. There is literally black, dark clouds where it looks like the heavens are going to open up and it's going to flood the earth. And maybe when you got that, you should maybe just push the start time off. Maybe push first pitch for a half hour, start it in a delay. Not the White Sox, though. You got to get those concessions sold. So they decided to start the game with Garrett Crochet starting. And the Sox ace threw 4 pitches, and Mother Nature just said, I don't want to see the Sox play anymore. And even Mother Nature was like, hey, I know Crochet's on the mound. I just don't want to watch the White Sox. And rain caused a suspension and wiped out a Crochet start. And now he might be only throwing 4 innings, but he still gives the Sox a rare shot at winning. And the Sox wasted it because of their stupidity. No, we didn't know. We didn't know it was going to rain. You literally, yes, you've had figurative dark clouds over you, but you literally had dark clouds hanging over the field. Stop and delay it. And if the game got rained out, guess what? You have a doubleheader the next day, because it's not like people are rushing out. And there was hardly anybody there in game 1. You probably could have counted the amount of people there, and it would have been under 100. Chris Flexen, though, I have to begrudgingly give him his flowers, as he pitched great in relief when the game resumed yesterday. 6 1/3 innings where he gave up just 3 runs. And I actually don't have to begrudge him, actually, because this is an example, even though there was a nearly 12-hour delay and I get it, it's a stretched example, but this is why I keep saying he should be backing up Garrett Crochet. Flexen should be in the bullpen. That's the only purpose he should serve. You obviously need somebody to back up Crochet because he's only going to go 4 innings. So why not throw Chris Flexen in there? Anyways, the Sox lost the first game 3-1 because, well, they're bad. Luis Robert Jr. has been starting to rack up hits. Let's discuss if he's on his way back toward being a superstar. Even more importantly, was he one in the first place? Let's discuss that next on Locked On White Sox. Okay, I made a huge mistake at the happiest place on earth when I thought I packed my liquid IV. Went to hydrate up on the first day of my vacation about 2 weeks ago. Checked the suitcase and realized I had not packed my liquid IV. End result, I got severely dehydrated on the first day of my vacation. Had I loaded up on liquid IV that day, I would have had gotten hydrated with electrolytes, essential vitamins, and clinically tested nutrients from the #1 powdered hydration brand in America. Instead, I wasted a few hours at the first aid station when I could have hydrated up with the easy to use liquid IV. All you got to do with liquid IV is tear, pour, live more. One stick plus 16 ounces of water hydrates better than water alone. 3 times the electrolytes of leading sports drinks, 8 essential vitamins and nutrients. Blast off with the iconic summer flavor of Popsicle Firecracker, a festive blend of citrus-fueled lemon lime, tart cherry, and raspberry flavors. No more thirsty summers when you indulge in hydration with liquid IV. Get 20% off your first order of Liquid IV when you go to liquidiv.com and use code MLB at checkout. That's 20% off your first order when you shop Better Hydration today using promo code MLB at liquidiv.com. And maybe you're done with the White Sox, and judging by the crowd in game one yesterday, a lot of you are, and you want to see some good baseball over Labor Day weekend. Why not use Game Time to get tickets to the Dodgers versus Diamondbacks in Arizona? Because exclusively on Game Time, they have 50% off tickets to the Dodgers at Diamondbacks game on Labor Day. Hey, grab a last-minute flight and an Airbnb and watch some good teams play at a nice ballpark. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. And they also have a panoramic view in the app so you can see what your view would be like. Game Time Picks makes it easier to save on sports, concerts, comedy, and theater. Lowest price guarantee or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today, because what time is it? Game time. And thank you for making Locked On White Sox your first listen today. For your second listen, enjoy the Locked On MLB podcast. Host Paul Sullivan, a.k.a. Sully, is here daily to provide national expertise with his trademark humor to help you get ready for the MLB playoffs here in the dog days of summer. Prepare for the Fall Classic with Sully, who has it all covered every single day on Locked On MLB, available on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And the White Sox and Texas Rangers wrap up a 3-game series today. The first pitch is at 1:10 p.m. Central Standard Time. Catch every pitch of the White Sox hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Search White Sox. And welcome back to Locked On White Sox. I am your host, Todd Welter. Make sure to hit the like button on today's episode and subscribe to the YouTube channel at Locked On White Sox if you've not done so already. And if you can't catch the show on YouTube, follow or subscribe to the show, and wherever you get your podcast, as Locked On White Sox is available via audio on places such as Apple and Spotify. All right, Luis Robert Jr. is starting to hit, but that does not mean he's back to being a superstar. And honestly, he never was in the first place. I mean, clearly he has the talent to get there, but this losing, injuries, and continually swinging at down and in pitches is what's going to keep him from getting there. Being the most talented player on a terrible team gives him the feel of a superstar player. Gives him the feel of a superstar player when in reality, he's still a player just trying to get there. And who knows if he'll ever get there. And that's not good, considering he is 27, and obviously he should be entering his peak performance years. I'll even admit I kind of fell for it. I deemed him a gate attraction. If you go back to the earlier episodes that I've done, I was saying he's a guy that you want to see. And last year he was worth seeing, but now, he's revealed he's not much of a superstar player, and he's not much of a draw either. You want to see him, striking out all the time? I don't. And most of you agree that he's not a superstar talent. The YouTube community poll page I ran on, on the YouTube at Locked On White Sox has 68% of you saying, no, he's not a superstar player. And you shouldn't even see the comments when I asked that on the Southside Showdown Facebook page. There's a lot of people that are like, why are you even asking that? And hey, there's nothing wrong with asking a question though, people. So just slow down there. He certainly has been one of the biggest disappointments this season. He's showing signs that he's about to break out of his slump with the 347, 373, 490 slash line over the past 15 days, but he's still hitting 224 with a 690 OPS and 14 homers. And that is way down from last season when he was supposedly arrived as a superstar player with a 264 average, 542 slugging percentage, 857 OPS, and 38 home runs. And I think, we all thought, hey, he's going to get the Sox a huge return if they move him at the deadline. That was kind of the logic. But a lot of teams were like, he's only had one really good season. Otherwise, he's hurt or he's inconsistent. And he's gone from a 4.9 fWAR player last year to 0.7 this season. You don't pay good money to see 0.7 fWAR players. In fact, nobody's really paying good money right now. I mean, again, you could count. I literally think there was like maybe 50 people at game one, and it was a nice day. And I get it was a makeup game, it's suspended. Maybe not a lot of people are going to sneak out, but they were honoring tickets from game one for the suspended game. So a lot of people are like, I'm not ditching work to see this. And why would you? When I looked at the fWAR for like the entire Sox lineup, there's nobody in the lineup now over 1. And superstars do not see that dramatic of dips in fWAR either. Well, unless you're Aaron Judge, who went from 11.1 fWAR in 2022 to 4.7 fWAR in 2023. Thankfully, he's bounced back this season to get to 9.8. And I think about it, the lowest fWAR Shohei Ohtani ever had was 1.6. And that was in 2019 when he played only in 106 games. Bryce Harper, yeah, he's seen some dips in his career. 2015, he went from a 9.3 fWAR to 2 in 2016, but he still had a 373 on base percentage to kind of make up for those struggles. Robert Jr. has not been able to do that. And he's not, especially this season, and he's not been able to play to a standard that he can lift a team to a few extra victories either. I can count on one hand where his elite talent elevated this team to victory. And it was that makeup game against the Braves where he hit a home run, made a bunch of defensive plays. Otherwise, you would think for a guy who's so valuable to his team, obviously his fWAR would be up by now, and he would be helping, maybe them grab a few wins on the margins, and he hasn't. He's not been a superstar player. And maybe that is the difference between losing 101 games where he was a superstar player last year. Well, he was an all-star player last year. But maybe that's the difference between losing 101 games for an entire season and losing 101 games before September, because I do think the losing is taking its toll on Robert Jr. And I don't care how mentally tough you are, that's got to be draining, especially when you started your career in 2020 when the Sox go to the playoffs, in 2021. Success, and then it's just like, oh my gosh, it's not only decay, it's an absolute, just crumbling that he's been a part of. But he's still behind Paul DeJong in the team lead for fWAR among hitters. And Paul DeJong has been on the team for almost a month. And this lineup lacks value. That's where, again, you need a talent like Robert Jr. to be playing up to his talent standards, because you have no value in this lineup. Gavin Sheets has the highest WRC plus at 94. So Robert Jr., he's at 90. But hopefully he can finish strong to provide some hope that he can bounce back next season and become a superstar player. However, it's probably likely he'll be a superstar player on another team. Well, John Brebbia got DFA'd, and yes, I'm going to dance on his grave considering he made $5 million to be awful this season. But his getting cut is part of a huge indication of how bad the bullpen has been, and I'll discuss why next on Locked On White Sox. All right, Prize Picks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. Prize Picks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports, and unlike other apps on Prize Picks, just you against the numbers. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch those winnings roll in. Get in on the daily action with your friends and become part of the Prize Picks community today. Hey, done with making White Sox selections and ready for the Chicago Bears? 1 Caleb Williams passing yard gets you 1 win on Prize Picks every week in September. That's right, only 1 yard gets you an automatic win every football weekend in September. 4 weeks of free W's. Don't miss this deal on Prize Picks because it's gone when September ends. And Prize Picks is available in more than 30 states across the country, including Illinois, Wisconsin, and Indiana. My buddy who lives behind the Cheddar Curtain loves how he gets to use Prize Picks to get his selections in. I think Prize Picks is neat for how easy it is and simple to play. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code LOCKEDONMLB on PrizePicks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks, run your game. And the White Sox and Texas Rangers wrap up a 3-game series today. The first pitch is at 1:10 p.m. Central Standard Time. Catch every pitch of the White Sox hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Search White Sox. Welcome back into Locked On White Sox. Shout out to all my everydayers who've stuck with me this long. Appreciate that we're all getting through this together. Hopefully there's better days of, by 2027. Fingers crossed. And if you're an everydayer, I have been pounding just how bad this bullpen has been. But I got facts on my side. 50 blown leads, although some of those are from the starters, but most is the bullpen. Second worst bullpen ERA, second most home runs allowed by a bullpen, and the most walks issued. Facts. Also, it being poorly constructed to begin with is now another example of just how bad the relief group has been. And remember, the season started with the rotation being the huge question mark. Everybody was like, Garrett Crochet going to be a starter? Pfft, that ain't going to work out. Eric Fetty, got that guy from Korea? That ain't going to work. And the starting rotation's been like one of the few bright spots the entire season. Jim Margulis of SoxMachine.com, though, he pointed out after Brebbia was DFA'd, and a quick hallelujah from the choir, hallelujah, the 9 bullpen arms that were on the opening day roster are not currently on the active roster. That, my friends, is another example of how bad GM Chris Getz is at his job. Here's a great excerpt from Jim's piece on Sox Machine. They even chose poorly or were extremely unlucky. The non-roster invitees, with the non-roster invitees, the White Sox would probably love to have Jake Cousins and his 1.80 ERA and 40 strikeouts over 30 innings, but they traded him to the Yankees for cash considerations at the end of March. Jesse Chavez has a sub-3 ERA over 40 games as a 40-year-old with the Braves, but he was among the last cut. They instead rolled with Leone and Shaw to immediately ugly results, although Justin Anderson and Chad Kuhl eventually gave the Sox value from this field. Even though we know full well before the season that the bullpen would test the new administration's talent evaluation and problem-solving abilities, it's hard to imagine a worse outcome for Chris Getz's first attempt at building a relief corp. It's also hard to imagine a worse outcome for Getz's first attempt at building a lineup. Together, they've blended as well as bleach and vinegar, and it's the leading reason why the White Sox are on pace to set the modern MLB record for losses by a comfortable margin. That's just great writing by Jim Margulis. I'm hoping to get him on the show. I got to reach out to him because I love his takes on baseball. And if you're not reading SoxMachine.com, you should. But injuries are a reason for the original 9 not being on the active roster. 9 right now. You got Jordan Leisure, Dominic Leone, and Steven Wilson on the 15-day IL. But before Leisure went on the IL, he had already been demoted because while he showed some promise to start the season, he went into a huge funk, got demoted, comes back, and he still was not very effective. And Dominic Leone and Steven Wilson obviously were not very good either. Then the 2 relievers with value, Tanner Banks and Michael Kopech, they got traded. But Kopech obviously was wildly inconsistent except for the final 5 games he pitched before he was traded. But obviously right now he's just been unhittable with the Dodgers. But even worse is the guys that were chosen to replace these 9 have not been very good. And, considering being bad is a big reason why a lot of the original 9 are no longer on the team because Brebbia, Tim Hill, Brian Shaw, and Davey Garcia all got DFA'd. And they were replaced with Jared Shuster, Justin Anderson, Perlander Baroa, Sammy Peralta, Chad Kuhl, Tuki Toussaint, and Fraser Ellard. And they all got promoted from AAA to take over. All their ERAs are over 4. Anderson and Kuhl, they've had their moments. And I think Jim Margulis is giving them a little bit too much credit because they've been mostly bad. Anderson, yeah, he's the guy that gave up the go-ahead run yesterday. It seems like he's very good at giving up go-ahead runs when he puts people on base. Chad Kuhl loves to put people on base. Jared Schuster had a good outing yesterday, but the night before, I believe the game before, or 2 games before, he was absolutely awful. The Sox claimed Enyel De Los Santos off of waivers, after ironically being cut by the New York Yankees after the Southsiders roughed him up pretty good earlier this month. I mean, he got destroyed by the Sox in probably the best game that they ever played this year. And the Yankees were like, you got to go. And yet the Sox couldn't see, hey, why did he get cut? Oh, because our lineup crushed him? Yeah, let's bring him over. And he's already given up 2 earned runs in 1 2/3 innings of work for the White Sox. Michael Soroka, he did get, he also was a replacement in the bullpen after he got demoted from the starting rotation. He had some decent long relief outings, but now he's on the 15-day IL. And as Margulis pointed out, there's a temporary silver lining from the wreckage in that if the White Sox want to use the bullpen to audition some erratic pitching prospects who are already on the 40-man roster, Jake Eder, Iro Iriarte, Nick Nastrini, and or Kai Busch, they'll have plenty of ways to accommodate them even after using the one expanded roster spot for September. But do you trust the front office to give any of those 4 guys an opportunity? Now, it looks like Nick Nastrini is going to get the starting rotation spot that, they demoted Kai Busch out of. But I don't see Jake Eder or Iro Iriarte getting a shot because they haven't done it already. You could have done this weeks ago, as I keep saying. That's why I'm cautious the Sox will give those guys a chance in the bullpen because the front office has been so resistant to make the dramatic change needed to get a good look at some of these younger arms. And again, and I will say, they are wasting the only positive of being this bad. That's the only positive of being this bad is you can use this time to take a look at the prospects that you have. And let me preface this, the prospects that at least have some promise to contribute at the big league level. Like, I'm not saying like just use this, time to, give a Tuki Toussaint like prospect, a guy that is like, this guy's not going to do it. Obviously, that's a waste of time. But, a lot of these guys that they have down at like Charlotte, like Addison Coffey, or Sean Burke or Trey McCuff, who you got for Eloy Jimenez, have some promise to at least be relievers. And you could have used, the last 2 weeks. You could have done this 2-3 weeks ago. John Brebbia should have been DFA'd after the trade deadline. That's why I am not optimistic that they're going to use September to do dramatic change. And that's what is needed to say, hey, let's take a look at it. And then my biggest fear is, and I said it on, I believe, Tuesday's show, Chris Getz is going to take the limited financial resources he had and repeat history just like Rick Hahn did and try to solve the bullpen by signing a bunch of free agents. And that is very, very dangerous. Well, that wraps up this edition of Locked On White Sox. Thank you for making Locked On White Sox your first listen today. Now go check out the Locked On MLB podcast. Prepare for the Fall Classic with Sully, who has it covered every single day. You can find the link on the Locked On MLB podcast in the description, so you don't need to search. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And I'll be back tomorrow, and I'll admit I've been pretty negative lately, so I'm going to try to find some positive things to talk about since, I don't want to be this total negative Nancy. Although I doubt I'll be able to find anything positive. So just expect, more criticisms and critiques for tomorrow's show. But feel free to leave comments about today's topics regarding how unlucky the team has been this season and last night. Luis Robert Jr. not being a superstar and another indication of just how bad this bullpen has been this season. You can leave them at the episode page on YouTube, X formerly Twitter at Todd J. Dub or at Locked On Sox, or you can email me at lockedonwhitesox@gmail.com. Have a great day. I'll talk to you tomorrow.